The sun burned without mercy over the dusty training grounds of Fort Redstone. Heat shimmered across the parade field where 282 soldiers stood locked in formation. Sweat soaked their uniforms, but not a single one dared to move. Colonel Victor Harland was walking the line. Harland had a way of draining the air from a place just by being present. Tall and broad-shouldered, wrapped in decades of command, he was a man whose reputation for discipline was as fierce as his temper. Soldiers feared him almost as much as the battles he had survived. At the far end of the formation stood Lieutenant Mara Vance, the only woman in the entire company. She was 31, with sharp, watchful eyes and a stillness that hinted at controlled power. She didn't look intimidating, but anyone who paid attention could sense the strength beneath her calm. She had fought to earn her place against rumors, against doubters, against men who believed she didn't belong, and she had never backed down. That was exactly why Harland despised her. "Lieutenant Vance," Harland barked as his boot struck. "The pavement." "Yes, sir," she answered, steady and clear. "You were late submitting your tactical report." "With respect, sir, it was submitted on time." "Don't correct me," he snapped as he stepped into her space, his shadow swallowing her. The entire line of soldiers stiffened. They had seen his anger before, but never aimed at her. Mara didn't move. "I believe that's enough, sir." His voice exploded across the field. "You think you can talk back because you're special? Let me make this clear. You're not." Silence fell like a heavy curtain. Sweat slid down Mara's spine, but her breathing stayed even. Then Harland raised his hand. It wasn't slow or theatrical. It was fast and vicious, meant to humiliate her in front of everyone. Before his palm could reach her face, Mara moved. Her hand shot up and locked around his wrist. Gasps tore through the ranks. In one fluid motion, she twisted his arm, using a precise Aikido technique learned years earlier in a narrow Okinawan alley. His elbow locked, his shoulder screamed, bone gave way with a sharp, sickening crack. Harland dropped to one knee. His face contorted in pain, breath coming in broken gasps as his head dipped into the dust. Mara released him and stepped back. "Never." "Raise your hand to a soldier under your command, sir?" 282 soldiers stood frozen. Even the wind seemed to stop. This moment hadn't truly begun on the parade field. It had started a week earlier in a briefing room. Mara had presented a carefully designed readiness plan for a counterinsurgency exercise. Every officer had praised it except Harland. He had torn it apart with deliberate cruelty, twisting every strength into a flaw, calling her inexperienced and naive. She had understood then what he was doing. He was targeting her. She could have reported him. She didn't. She believed in handling her own battles until they crossed into danger. Now they had. Medics rushed in, kneeling beside Harland as one called for a stretcher. "Get her in my office," though the power had drained. From his voice, Mara walked away under escort, her boots striking the pavement with calm precision. Soldiers didn't look at her, but she felt every stare inside Harland's office. The air was cooler, but the tension was crushing. "You broke my arm," he hissed. "You tried to strike me," she replied. "I defended myself." "What do you think? Anyone will side with you?" "I built this unit." The door opened. Colonel Reeves, the base commander, stepped inside. Quiet, controlled, but unshakable. I saw everything from the observation deck. Harland fell silent. "Lieutenant Vance, return to your quarters. You'll receive my decision at 0800. That night, Mara sat on her bunk polishing her boots, just as she had every night since she joined the service. Rumors would already be spreading. She didn't care. What mattered was whether her career would survive the truth. A knock came. Sergeant Darius Cole stood in the doorway, his expression serious. "Ma'am, what you did today, every soldier saw it." For the first time since Harland took command, someone stood up to him. "That wasn't about making a statement," she said quietly. "It was about survival." He nodded. Still, it mattered. At 0800, she stood in Reeves's office. Harland was there, arm in a cast, eyes burning. Lieutenant Vance, Reeves said, "Your actions were unorthodox but justified. My report will state you acted in self-defense against an unlawful strike." Harland stiffened. "Colonel Harland?" Reeves continued. You are relieved of command effective immediately, pending formal inquiry. The silence was absolute. Mara simply saluted and walked out. Later that day, the battalion assembled again. This time, Mara stood at the front. Lieutenant Mara. Vance is appointed acting commander of the 14th Infantry Training Battalion. A wave of restrained applause rolled through the ranks. Mara's gaze swept over them. We train as one. Fight as one. And in this unit, no one stands above the law. Yes, ma'am, the soldiers replied. Harlan's career ended quietly. Mara's rose. And long after, soldiers still told the story about the day, a colonel raised his hand, and a lieutenant broke the silence along with his arm.